There is a certain type of person people often misunderstand. They avoid doctors. They postpone therapy. They shut down when conversations become serious, emotional, or deeply personal. From the outside, it looks like denial, immaturity, even irresponsibility. But psychology tells a very different story. Because for many people, avoidance is not about ignorance. It is about protection. If this pattern feels familiar to you, this video is not really about what you're avoiding. It's about why your mind learned to survive this way. Society teaches us that seeking help is always healthy, that talking things through is always the right choice, that awareness automatically leads to action. But the nervous system does not operate on logic. It operates on safety. For some people, doctors' offices, therapy rooms, and serious conversations do not feel supportive. They feel threatening. Not because help is dangerous, but because vulnerability once was. Psychology shows that when the body associates exposure with emotional danger, the mind learns to delay, deflect, or disconnect. This isn't resistance, it's conditioning. Many people who avoid these situations are not emotionally disconnected. They are emotionally overloaded. Their inner world is already loud. Thoughts are intense. Feelings are constantly being monitored and managed. So when someone says, "You should talk about it," their nervous system hears, "You will lose control." Doctors, therapists, and serious conversations represent one thing: emotional exposure. And for a mind that learned early on that emotions were overwhelming, unsafe, or punished, avoidance becomes regulation. That's why this behavior often feels automatic. You plan to book the appointment. You intend to open up. You promise yourself you'll deal with it later, and then your body tightens. Your chest feels heavy. Your energy drops. Psychology explains this through somatic memory. The body remembers what the mind was forced to forget. In this context, avoidance is not weakness. It is the nervous system trying to maintain balance. They are called irresponsible, in denial, immature. But psychology reveals something far more complex. Avoidance is rarely about ignorance. It is about fear mixed with memory. For many of these people, help was never neutral. It was invasive, judgmental, dismissive. At some point in their lives, opening up did not bring relief. It brought shame, minimization, or emotional exposure without safety. So the mind learned a rule: if I don't go there, I can't be hurt there. This is not weakness. It is a learned survival strategy. Serious conversations force confrontation with emotions that were once overwhelming. Doctors represent vulnerability of the body. Therapy represents vulnerability of the mind. And when vulnerability was punished instead of protected, the brain associates depth with danger. This is why avoidance feels like control, not because they don't care, but because caring once cost too much. Over time, avoidance becomes part of identity, not consciously but subtly. I don't like doctors. I don't believe in therapy. I hate deep conversations. These statements feel like preferences, but psychologically they are protections. Because facing a doctor means acknowledging the body can fail. Facing therapy means admitting the past still lives inside. Facing serious conversations means risking emotional exposure. And for someone who learned early that exposure leads to loss of control, avoidance feels safer than honesty. There is also a deeper layer. Avoidance preserves a fragile sense of stability. As long as nothing is examined, nothing has to change. As long as nothing is named, nothing becomes real. Psychology calls this defensive freezing. It is not laziness. It is not denial in the simplistic sense. It is the nervous system choosing stillness over collapse. This is why pressure rarely works. Telling someone you need help often pushes them further away. Not because they disagree, but because their system hears danger. True safety is never forced. It is felt. And until safety is felt, avoidance remains the mind's quiet shield. What most people never realize is that avoidance is not the absence of courage. It is the memory of overwhelm. At some point, this person felt too much too fast with no support. Their nervous system learned a rule: depth equals danger. So the mind became strategic. It learned to stay surface level, to keep conversations light, to avoid situations where emotions might spiral beyond control. Doctors ask questions. Therapy asks feelings. Serious conversations ask truth. And truth, when once met with abandonment, criticism, or emotional chaos, no longer feels safe. Psychology shows that people who avoid introspection often possess high internal sensitivity. They are not disconnected. They are overstimulated. Their system is not numb. It is protecting itself from overload. This is why silence feels safer than dialogue, why distance feels calmer than closeness, why avoidance feels like peace even when it slowly becomes isolation. But here is the hidden cost. What is avoided does not disappear. It waits. Unprocessed emotions store themselves in the body. Unspoken fears shape decisions silently. Unexamined patterns repeat themselves with different faces. Avoidance freezes time internally. Life moves forward, but the emotional system stays where it learned to survive. And this creates a quiet tension, a sense that something is always unfinished. That relief never fully arrives. That calm is temporary, not because something is wrong with you, but because something inside you is still unheard. Awareness begins the moment avoidance is seen without judgment, not as weakness, not as failure, but as intelligence that learned to survive. Healing does not start by forcing yourself into what you fear. It starts by understanding why your system resists. Psychology shows that change happens through micro-exposures, not emotional shock, not deep confessions, not dramatic confrontations, but small moments of safety, a single honest sentence, a brief pause instead of withdrawal, a question asked without obligation to answer everything. When avoidance loosens slowly, the nervous system learns a new association. Depth does not always mean danger. This is how trust is rebuilt internally, not by pushing yourself into therapy overnight, not by suddenly becoming open and vulnerable, but by allowing curiosity where fear once lived. The people who avoid doctors and therapy are often the same people who observe deeply. They notice patterns, they sense emotional shifts, they understand more than they reveal. Their strength was never the absence of depth. It was the control of it, but control over time becomes confinement, and the mind begins to long for something quieter than avoidance, something gentler than defense. Not exposure, not force, but permission. Permission to feel without collapsing. Permission to speak without consequences. Permission to exist without armor. Psychology does not ask you to rush. It asks you to listen, because the moment you stop running from yourself, the need to avoid the world slowly fades. One of the most misunderstood aspects of avoidance is the assumption that it comes from denial. But psychologically, avoidance is rarely about not knowing. It is about knowing too much too soon, without the tools to process it safely. Many people who avoid doctors, therapy, or deep conversations are not disconnected from themselves. They are hyper-aware. They sense tension before words are spoken. They read emotional shifts instantly. They detect disappointment, judgment, or danger long before it becomes obvious. This heightened perception is not random. It often develops in environments where emotional unpredictability was the norm, when care was inconsistent, when vulnerability was met with dismissal, when asking questions created more problems instead of solutions. In these environments, the nervous system learns a powerful equation. Awareness without control equals pain. So it adapts. It limits exposure. It avoids situations where truth might surface without protection. It chooses silence over explanation, distance over dialogue, not because the person fears reality, but because reality once arrived without safety. Serious conversations feel dangerous not because of their content, but because of what they activate internally. Old sensations return, a tightening in the chest, a sense of being cornered, the fear of being misunderstood and unable to escape. The body remembers experiences the mind no longer names, and when the body anticipates overwhelm, avoidance becomes regulation. This is why logic rarely overrides it. You cannot reason a nervous system out of a strategy that once kept it alive. From the outside, it looks like resistance. From the inside, it feels like self-preservation. And until safety is experienced, not explained, the pattern remains. In the end, avoiding doctors, therapy, or serious conversations is not about ignorance or weakness. It is about protection. For many people, opening up once meant being misunderstood, dismissed, or emotionally exposed without safety. So the mind learned a rule: if I don't look too closely, I won't feel too deeply. But avoidance comes with a quiet cost. What you don't name begins to control you from the shadows. What you don't face doesn't disappear, it waits. Healing does not begin with forcing yourself to talk, explain, or relive everything at once. It begins with safety, with the realization that you are allowed to go slowly, that your nervous system is not broken. It adapted. The hidden side of avoidance is not fear of truth. It is fear of being alone with the truth. And when you finally meet yourself with compassion instead of pressure, conversation stops feeling like danger. Help stops feeling like threat. and healing becomes a choice instead of a demand. If this resonated, you're not avoiding life. You've been surviving it. And survival is not the end of your story.